Aside from the Democrat Party and the mainstream news media calling for a nonstop influx of immigrants from third world countries to increase the Democrat voter rolls by millions and millions of people, Hollywood is helping as much as they can as well. Over the last few years, brief pro-illegal immigration messages have been inserted into the dialogue of various shows, or characters would comment how terrible President Trump's immigration policies were, but now we're even seeing entire television series dedicated to promoting illegal immigration and demonizing anyone who wants to secure the border. Recently, the New York Times expressed frustration that there weren't enough illegal immigrants in starring roles or television shows that focus on them and their struggles. So they called on studios to greenlight more series about Dreamers, the millions of illegal aliens smuggled into the United States by their parents that President Obama gave amnesty to. Producers, of course, listened, and soon plots about innocent illegal immigrants being persecuted became a common occurrence. After Roseanne Barr's character was killed off and the series renamed The Conners due to her infamous offensive tweet about Obama administration official Valerie Jarrett, her daughter in the show, Becky, got knocked up by an illegal alien who worked as a busboy at the same Mexican restaurant that she waitressed at, and he called her one day to let her know that he got caught up in an ICE raid, an immigration and custom enforcement raid, and she breaks down into tears out of fear that now the baby's gonna have to grow up without a father because he's being deported. And NBC's sitcom Superstore featured ICE agents coming to the fictional retail giant Cloud9, hence the Superstore at the center of the show, to arrest an illegal immigrant who works there in the season finale, and her fellow employees tried to help her escape those terrible agents. Netflix's female prison drama Orange is the New Black also featured ICE agents as the bad guys who arrested a major character when she was about to get released from prison for an unrelated crime, leaving her boyfriend waiting outside with a bouquet of flowers, devastated that he wasn't going to get reunited with her. In an episode of the CW's Two Sentences horror story, a Latino nanny fends off would-be robbers trying to break into the family's home that she works for, but when the heroic nanny makes the news, ICE agents discover that she was undocumented and soon pay a visit to her, thus the horrifying twist at the end. During the Trump administration, we saw Hollywood put out more open border messages than ever before. Pop singer Kesha even released a song and a music video dedicated to the Dreamers. The medical drama Grey's Anatomy had an episode about an illegal immigrant who reluctantly takes her daughter to the hospital to finally get health care she's been neglecting out of fear that she would get deported, and lobbying agency Hollywood Health and Society convinced writers to include that plot point to highlight concerns that illegal aliens have about getting deported if they go to the hospital. We all know that Hollywood loves to reboot old shows from decades ago, like Hawaii Five-0, Murphy Brown, MacGyver, hoping to cash in on the nostalgia that the original fans had for the series. One of those reboots recently was Party of Five, which originally aired in the 1990s and was about a family of 5 kids aged 1 to 24 who had to fend for themselves after both of their parents were killed in a car accident by a drunk driver. But last year it was rebooted to depict a Mexican family whose parents were deported because of President Trump's crackdown on illegals. The kids, who were anchor babies because they were born in the US, were then left here to fend for themselves. The show was canceled after 1 season, though. What a surprise. There's plenty more to come in this video, but real quick, subscribe to my channel if you're new here, and I'll continue to take you behind the scenes of Hollywood propaganda and expose the liberal media industrial complex. So subscribe to the channel here and check back on a regular basis. Even the rebooted Twilight Zone on CBS featured an episode where welcoming illegal immigrants was the moral of the story at the end. An upper middle class woman's housekeeper is detained by ICE and scheduled to be deported, and despite working for the family for over a decade, the family's friends seem fairly callous about her situation. And one of the neighbors says that these people know the risks when they come here, and the homeowner herself is later revealed to be an illegal immigrant as well, from another dimension, who came to ours 30 years ago to live amongst the humans on Earth after fleeing terrible living conditions on her own planet, and in the end, she is also detained and hauled off screaming, now facing deportation herself back to where she came from. And the episode concludes with narrator Jordan Peele giving the moral of the story that we're all immigrants from somewhere. Another planned series called Casa, which is Spanish for home, was shopped around, which is about a family of immigrants who have to fend for themselves after their parents are deported. It's unknown if this idea was dropped because, well, it's identical to the Party of Five reboot, or if that series was just rebranded as the Party of Five. It's likely that numerous scripts about the same premise floated around Hollywood before one of them finally got picked up, since it's such a predictable plot, and several different writers probably thought that it was the next big idea. DACA dramas are becoming television's new obsession for many in Hollywood, and even Apple TV, which has recently joined the television production business, produced an immigration series called Little America about a 12-year-old boy from India whose parents are deported and he's left to run his father's hotel. In 2019, Netflix released a documentary titled After the Raid, which follows the lives of several people in a small town in Tennessee after ICE officers conducted a roundup of illegals there in order to guilt-trip white people into feeling bad about the Latino families that were broken up. Netflix is also producing a documentary series about illegal aliens with singer-actress Selena Gomez called Living Undocumented, which follows around different families who are at risk of being deported. It's not just TV shows. For years, feature-length films have promoted illegal immigration. District 9 put a unique spin on an alien invasion story by depicting the aliens arriving to Earth not to kill us and conquer our planet, but apparently in desperate search of a new home. The friendly aliens were malnourished and weak from their long journey and presumably came here looking for help, only to be mistreated by the humans and forced to live in a slum called District 9 that serves as a giant internment camp surrounded by barbed wire and armed guards. In the end, the lead immigration official who had previously harassed and abused the aliens is turned into one himself after being exposed to a DNA mutating agent and is forced to live in District 9 as one of them. The entire film was just a cheesy allegory about racial segregation and xenophobia. In Machete, back in 2010, Danny Trejo plays an illegal immigrant and vigilante living in Texas who is seen as a folk hero for killing a bunch of evil white people trying to stop illegal immigration. And the film's catchphrase was, "We didn't cross the border crossed us." The white people are depicted as stupid or evil, and at one point Robert De Niro's character, who is part of a volunteer border patrol group, even murders a Mexican kid after they catch him trying to cross the border. "Welcome to America," he says just before pulling the trigger, and Danny Trejo then kills all the white devils. When some people denounced the film for seemingly encouraging anti-white violence, the Southern Poverty Law Center stepped in to defend it, calling it an argument for comprehensive immigration reform, meaning an argument for open borders, since the bad guys in the film, aside from the Mexican drug cartel, were white people who didn't want illegal immigrants crossing the border into the United States. Back in 2013, a film called ELYSIUM came out starring Matt Damon about a futuristic society where the inhabitants of Earth live in extreme poverty and lack basic health care, while a small group of elite live in luxury on a space station called Elysium that orbits the planet, and those not authorized to land on Elysium are deemed, quote, illegal immigrants and deported, and in one instance, even have their aircraft shot down by the cold, heartless elite. Matt Damon's best friend's daughter has leukemia and is in need of medical treatment, so he helps smuggle her to the space station to save her, despite the elite's best efforts to stop him. Action films need bad guys, and for generations, those bad guys have often been Mexican or Colombian drug cartels. But now, those kinds of plots have been deemed xenophobic and racist out of concerns that they cast Latinos in a negative light. And when the trailer dropped for Sylvester Stallone's latest Rambo film, Rambo Last Blood, it showed the iconic character fighting against a Mexican drug cartel, and liberals immediately called it xenophobic and anti-Mexican propaganda. Rambo's adopted niece, who's of Mexican descent, runs away to Mexico hoping to find her birth mother, but is kidnapped by the cartel and forced into prostitution. But leave it to liberals to defend sex trafficking and get upset because an iconic American film hero hunts down and kills the sex traffickers. The Daily Beast said that the film was designated to prove President Trump's claim that we need to build the wall and that Rambo has gone full MAGA. One reviewer even called it deeply xenophobic and said that the film should be the end of the line for the character. Another critic called it a hyper-violent xenophobic revenge fantasy. Some idiot even called it a radicalizing recruitment video for right-wing extremists. On Rotten Tomatoes, it got a 26% positive rating from critics, while 82% of the viewers gave it a thumbs up. A disparity often seen on Rotten Tomatoes where critics now trash politically incorrect comedy specials and movies that are well received by the viewers. In 2018, Sicario Day of Soldado, or however the hell you pronounce it, was released, starring Josh Brolin and Benicio del Toro, who battle drug cartels in the stereotypical fashion, and it too set off a wave of crying critics, one saying that it doubles down on the violent fantasies about another Mexican-American war, and it feels like a piece of state-sanctioned propaganda, a MAGA-exploitation thriller that does not see humanity in our neighbors. Jennifer Garner starred in a film called Peppermint a couple years ago, in which her husband and daughter are murdered by a drug cartel, so she became a vigilante hunting and killing them, and the New Yorker called the movie racist and arrogant. Another critic said that it was irresponsible to make movies where the bad guys are Mexican drug cartels anymore because they portray Latinos as animals. NBC News said that the film is a poorly written blockbuster filled with racist stereotypes. Hollywood should know better. Until the Trump era, nobody thought that films about fighting Mexican drug cartels were problematic, but because of the hyper-vigilant Twitter outrage mobs that organize harassment campaigns hoping to stop any opposing ideas, the entire plot point may be all but abandoned by studios out of fear that the movies will be poorly reviewed by critics who deem them to be racist. And don't even get me started on the anti-white racism coming out of Hollywood lately. Maybe I'll save that report for another video. Order my new book, Hollywood Propaganda, in paperback from Amazon.com by clicking the link in the description below, or download the ebook on your tablet or your e-reader if you want to learn more. Or if you want to support my channel in other ways, get yourself a Liberalism Fighting a Cure shirt or an I Love Global Warming tank top from my online store at markdice.com. All of my designs, of course, available in a t-shirt, long sleeve, and a hoodie, and a whole bunch of different colors as well. So head on over to markdice.com or click the link in the description below and check them out.